Hey there, how there, ho there. It's good old Jeff Diamond here with this very special YouTube/Facebook video. Forgive me, I don't have a kilt on and I don't have a wrestling shirt, so obviously I have to go with whatever shirt I want to wear. So anyway, the reason why I'm doing this show is because of the recent death of Roddy Piper last Friday, July 31st, 2015, the last day of the 7th month of 2015. Now, I know that Dusty Rhodes passed away a few months earlier. I didn't do a tribute video to him because, you know, what would I say about Dusty Rhodes? I'm not really into a WCW. I'm into WWE. Now, I have recollections about Roddy Piper. Can't remember the first time I've heard of Roddy Piper. Maybe back in the early 90s, but anyway. I'm going to just read you a blurb from a wrestling book. Hold on 1 minute. And then I'll give you my recollections, my personal recollections from what I know from these. So, say the WWE Encyclopedia. It's massive. It is, how many pages is it? It's 400 and something pages. It's officially 409 pages. So yeah. So okay. So this is Roddy Piper's thingy. He was 6'2". Hard to believe 6'2". I thought he would be like 5'10". 230 pounds, from Glasgow, Scotland. Technically, he's not Canadian American. I mean, he's not from Scotland. Technically, he was built from Scotland, but he's from Canada. It's like Yokozuna being built from Japan, but the real guy was a Samoan by the name of Roddy Roddy, and his signature move was a sleeper. Title history: he had only won 2 major titles in WWE: the Intercontinental belt in 1992 and the World Tag Team belt in 2006. So here's how. I'm not going to read you the whole entry because, you know, it'll be a lot. Okay, but anyway, Roddy Piper debuted at the Winnipeg Arena as the youngest competitor to ever set foot in the ring. He was 15 when he did it. And then he lost in 10 seconds to Larry the Axe Hennig. Of course, that was the father of Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, and the grandfather of Curtis Axel. In '84, he entered WWE with kilts, bagpipes, and a bad manner. He was a manager. He was scheduled to be manager first and foremost. Now, in '83, he lost part of his hearing in a NWA Starrcade match with Greg the Hammer Valentine in a dog collar match. As manager, Dr. D. David Schultz, the wrestler responsible for stopping the report of saying wrestling's fake, and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff. Piper incited audiences and superstars alike and was never shy about inserting himself into a match. He pushed the limits of what was considered decent, and his appearances in the ring made sure WWE had a police presence. That's a rarity. Piper had so much anger, Cowboy Bob Orton was made his bodyguard. Determined to show the world that when he spoke, people listened, he introduced a revolutionary segment called Piper's Pit. The segment was a breeding ground for confirmation, and the #1 confrontation was when he put Jimmy Snuka out of commission with a coconut to the head. Piper was part of the Rock and Wrestling Connection and actually kicked Cyndi Lauper in the head. He was part of WrestleMania's first ever main event when he and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff faced Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Now, I will be uploading that Roddy Piper tribute match from WWE 2K14 when I get the time to, because I have to go in a specific order by putting stuff into my computer. Anyway, let's see. He ended up losing the match. He deserted his partner and laid out Pat Patterson during his Madison Square Garden exit with Bodyguard and Jolt. Roddy Piper and Mr. T actually won in a boxing match at WrestleMania 2 from one of the 3 venues, Long Island, New York, at the Nassau Coliseum, or the Mausoleum, to your hockey fans. So Piper ended up losing to Mr. T because he body-slammed Mr. T, and obviously in boxing, that's illegal. In the UFC, it would have been legal. So anyway, Piper had a big war with Hulk Hogan, but never could wrestle the title away from Hulk Hogan. So Piper changed his ways in late '86. He was in a debate with adorable Adrian Adonis. Which show was better, Piper's Pit or the Flower Shop? And then he had a hair versus hair match for WrestleMania 3. And it was billed as Piper's final match. Roddy Piper, thanks to Mr. Brutus Beefcake, who was like Brutus Beefcake in, I think, '86 was a heel, and now he turned good, just like Piper. Piper won the match and shaved Adrian's head off. Adrian Adonis actually ended up dying in 1988 when he was on a wrestling tour in Newfoundland and hit a moose. His karma hit a moose. Piper decided to try his hand in movies, and in 1988 he was in John Carpenter's sci-fi classic They Live. He did so well, he had movie offers, but he wanted to go back to WWE. And then he came back in WrestleMania 5 in Atlantic City and put the smoke of Morton Downey Jr. out, who was puffing a cigarette, in Piper's face. Piper used a fire extinguisher to extinguish him. Literally. Piper had some colorful matches after 1989, none more so than in WrestleMania 6 in Toronto, when he faced Mr. Bad News Brown. And of course it was controversial because Piper put half his body in black body paint. It kind of looked like dark chocolate pudding, if you want to put it that way. So anyway, Piper and Bad News Brown actually ended up being counted out. Piper was turned to be a broadcaster in 1991. Strange as it sounds, a couple of days before Piper died, I was watching SummerSlam 91. Yeah, I think SummerSlam 91 was on either WWE Network or I just flipped it on the WWE On Demand channel. But that Network On Demand channel is actually has less content than the American one, I bet. So in Canada, they update the pay-per-views, but they don't give us a lot of pay-per-views. Like a lot of Royal Rumble. Well, there's no Royal Rumbles on that Rogers channel before 2012. I do have the online channel though too. That's the only way I can get it. Anyway, in 1992, he beat the Mountie to win the Intercontinental belt. He actually ended up being a fill-in because Bret Hart had 102-degree fever. I believe it was either him or the Mountie who won the belt because of fever. And then Bret Hart beat him in WrestleMania 8 for the Intercontinental belt. And Piper and Hart actually had mutual admiration for each other. So basically, that wasn't bad. Piper actually ended up being the guest referee in the main title match at WrestleMania 10 in New York when Yokozuna took on Bret Hart. And thanks to Yokozuna's weight problem, he lost to Bret Hart. And Bret got the WWE title. And then he was in WrestleMania 12 as the on-screen WWE president when Gorilla Monsoon was fair-bombed. So all Roddy Piper had to do was basically become president, and he actually faced Goldust in a Hollywood backlot brawl match, which actually had ramifications of the O.J. Simpson White Bronco chase. If you see WrestleMania 12, you'll get what I'm at. And the Piper Goldust match, it was actually not like one match like 20 minutes. It was filled out. It was filled out to fill the span of WrestleMania 12 until the 60-minute Iron Man match for the WWE title between HBK and Bret Hart. So anyway, Roddy Piper came back in 2003. Well, he was done with wrestling in 86. 7 years later, he came back in 03 and actually put a steel pipe to Hulk Hogan's head and was turning out to try to be a heel again and all that. So Piper actually was in the WWE for a few months in mid-2003, but he left. I think some kind of contract dispute or something. Regardless, In 2005, he was in the WWE Hall of Fame in the class with Hulk Hogan. He had a Piper's Pit with Stone Cold Steve Austin the next day, and he continued to appear on WWE programming and actually won the tag belts with Ric Flair to beat the Spirit Squad in November of 2006. I wonder if the Spirit Squad, I know they won it the day after WrestleMania, but did they lose the titles sometime in 2006? Probably. So anyway, that was amazing how he won the World Tag Team belt about 22 years after he came into the WWE. In fact, Piper was part of WrestleMania 25 when Ric Flair and Superfly Snuka fought in the ring against Chris Jericho. Of course, they lost. Jericho won, but then Jericho got punched out by Ricky Rourke. Suits him right. So basically, Piper had some good Piper's Pits and all that. So that's from the encyclopedia. Okay, my personal recollections is this. Now, Roddy Piper, of course, I didn't really watch a lot of wrestling matches back when I was a kid. In the 1990s, my mom was into wrestling, so like 91 through 93, I used to watch wrestling. And then after like years, like in 96, I think I stopped watching wrestling with my mom. And basically, I never watched a WWE match till 2004 when I moved to Kitchener, and basically I was flipping through the channels on TV and it said SmackDown from Montreal. So basically I looked at it, SmackDown and all that 2004, and it was hard to pick up after 8 years of inactivity. But you know, they had some good fights and Piper wasn't in too many of those. I believe Piper was invited to the thing with when Ric Flair retired and then Hulk's birthday, which was almost a year ago. I know Piper made some comments about Hulk Hogan's firing on just the day before he died. So the official count was cardiac arrest. He was 61 at that time. He was battling cancer at that time. So basically, another reason why I remember Roddy Piper was because if you watch the cartoon series, Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling and all that, Piper was was the leader of the villains that involved him, Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov, Fabulous Moolah, Mr. Fuji, Big John Studd. I think there were only like 6 bad guys in it. They did. Yeah, I said Big John Studd. King Kong Bundy wasn't in it. So basically, yeah, he was the leader. There are so many good Roddy Piper, Hulk Hogan Rockin' Wrestling things. Now the wrestlers never did any of their voice. None of the wrestlers actually did their voices in the thing. I know for a fact that Junkyard Dog was played by James Avery, who was Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince, and Brad Garrett of Everybody Loves Raymond fame actually was the voice of Hulk Hogan during that series. Now, some of Roddy's the funniest stories involving Roddy Piper was the first ever Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling one, in which he actually tries to fight the Junkyard Dog in a street race so that the winner got to have their car in a monster movie. And Piper won somehow, but his car got destroyed because that was the scene, to destroy the car. But a few other Roddy Piper stories I remember off the top of my head Piper was sent a letter from Scotland and to claim a castle, but he actually had to joust his cousin Ronnie Piper, and ended up losing somehow. He tried to cheat his way through the jousting match, but lost handily. So basically, he found out that his cousin Ronnie was actually a girl. And then I remember another Roddy Piper one was Roddy Reforms, in which Roddy Piper gets himself in trouble with the law after trying to battle it out with Hulk Hogan with his cars, with Hulk's rock and roll music and Piper's bagpipe music. And then Piper got so mad he slams into the back of a police car and then yells at the policeman. And then the judge has to take away Roddy's car for a month and basically tell him that he could be thrown in jail if he makes so many caustic comments. And well, Piper tried to buy off the judge by giving him 2 free tickets to his next wrestling match. So Piper is told by Fabulous Moolah through tapes he can calm himself down. So he does, but the villains soon learn that Piper with you know, calmness and all that is causing a lot of damage, including forcing the Iron Sheik to give back his Iron Jeep. And some other things I can't remember off the top of my head. Giving up Moolah's bike to the landlord for rent money, all that. So they try so hard to get him to reform back to a bad guy. It then was just the song, a rock and roll song that snapped him out of his funk. So anyway, I remember the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling because I don't know how I had heard of it, and I remember years ago, I think it was 8 or 9 years ago, that they had VCR tapes of Rock and Wrestling on sale. I didn't buy them because I didn't think that would be a good idea. And then it comes to pass about 5 years ago that online this guy was selling like all the Hulk Hogan Rock and Wrestling episodes on 2 DVDs. So I actually went online and bought it for $20 because my aunt is a big wrestling fan and all that. She's been around. She knows a lot of wrestling. She watches more wrestling than I do. Well, I technically watch WWE Network, like the classic stuff, more than her. And you know, at my age, I'm 30 years old. I know a lot more stuff than I let on about wrestling. I also have the wrestling gene, of course, from my mother Diane, who keeps a scrapbook of pictures she took with famous wrestlers. She had one with Andre the Giant, and I think Bobo Brazil was another one. I can't remember other ones. But anyway, so basically, yeah, I got that love of wrestling. Edward, my brother, actually went to a few WCW shows at the Kitchener Odd when they was at the Kitchener Odd. Now, the strange thing is there hasn't been a WWE live event by Kitchener in 6 years, something like that. And what also pisses me off is that we haven't had a pay-per-view in Canada since September 2009, and that was the famous one when CM Punk did a kind of a Montreal screw job on The Undertaker. I'm going to try to make a wrestling petition, to put one pay-per-view event back in Canada, because, I mean, it's ridiculous. We've been, since 2009, Breaking Point 2009, it's the last WWE pay-per-view in Canada. I mean, God, there were years we had 2 WWE pay-per-views. I remember as such that Backlash was in Edmonton in 2004, and SummerSlam was in Toronto in 2004. So basically, and of course you had the 2 WrestleManias in Toronto, WrestleMania 6 and 18. So anyway, yeah, I'm getting off track a bit. So yeah, Roddy Piper, and you know, WWE Network is finally putting Legends House back on its loop and all that. I know for a fact the last WWE Network Legends House that was on when he was alive was the LARPing one, which I didn't watch because of live action role playing. Fuck off. But tomorrow's new one, well, new in quotations, it was filmed in 2012, and it came last year, is that Roddy Piper and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, they're doing the How Well You Know Your Teammates. And then the next one is when Piper has to be roasted because he left the WWE Legends House to do an autograph signing in Atlanta. So basically, Roddy Piper did a lot of things. I know I'm going to go over the 20-minute time limit I said on my webcam. I'll just do another part, and then I'll play you the what Roddy Piper says in his the roast. I'll play the audio. I don't think I can show you the video because that would be wrong. Just hang on one sec. Alright, I'm back. So I've decided to play you the part of the roast. So I actually took the liberty of taping the WWE roast thing a while ago. I taped it off the TV and then put it on my computer, just so I can watch it and I don't have to watch it on WWE Network. So basically, I'll play you the part. Now, there is a part that Tony Atlas, one of the housemates in Legends House, does with Roddy Piper. The others kind of stunk with the material with Piper. And then you'll hear Piper with his quote-unquote material for everyone else, burning everyone, roasting. Okay, here we go. Hope you can hear this.
I don't know what I'm doing up here. Jeez. I really don't have nothing bad to say about Ronnie. He's always been a good friend of mine. I remember one time I was in the ring with Ronnie, and give me the headlock. He's squeezing it. Then all of a sudden he looked down at me and said, "Damn, Atlas, I hear her squeezing a blackhead, but this is ridiculous." Yeah, you know you did. You know I'm gonna tell all this thing.
Turn your foot to sleep.
Every time I whip my wife, the strangest thing, she likes Ronnie so much that me and her would be getting it off, and she just be calling his name. I can't figure that out. She likes him like that. All my kids look like Ronnie. One guy I'm surprised at was Tony Atlas. He did very well. Earlier, he didn't want to do anything. He did a great job. I'm very, very, very happy for him. I'm impressed.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to bring up the man of the hour.
There it is.
What can I say?
Yeah, baby.
In his culture, wearing this kilt is cool, but in the hood, you a bitch. Give it up for Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Thanks, God bless you. Am I nervous?
I wish they had more Roddy Piper Legend House thing on YouTube.
I just had to kind of go for it a little bit. What a bunch of fools.
Yeah.
Is the kindergarten class over? I got stuck. They call it the Legend House.
Piper's kind of a loner.
Stuck me in there with these 8 guys. They had made me do more for this show. They waxed us. He didn't say no. They waxed him, and he didn't say a word.
He's alluding to Hillbilly Jim.
Oh my God.
Well, I come, I looked in the garbage can. It looked like Chewbacca had an abortion. How did you get here? Baby Jesus. Some of these things are going to stay with us for life. In Gene's case, 2 weeks.
Oh!
There's Duggan. Look over, his ass is half out the bed. I ain't making this up.
They're roommates.
I've howled at the moon before, but that moon started howling back. And he brings a 2x4 to the ring with him. I say that's the only wood he's had in 10 years. It's pretty strong, you know, but I think it was all in good fun. Duggan, you slut.
Really?
When he goes into a spin club, the dancers go, oh!
You know it's true.
Tony Atlas. Shrek. Did you bring donkey rings? Oh, never mind. The ass is right next to you.
Oh!
Thank you. I love you.
Okay. Well, obviously that was a good clip of the roast. That's my favorite WWE Legends House thing with Piper. Well, that and how well you know your roommates. I can't remember it. Oh, yeah. He was tied, and then Roddy Piper tries to cheat with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and writes on his hand something on his hand, because the question, if I remember correctly, was, what is the one thing Roddy Piper can't live without? And and of course Duggan is his roommate for the win and for a prize, which was actually private tennis lessons. I don't want to spoil it, but anyway. And then Hacksaw looks at Piper's hand because Piper is putting his hand out, and he said, "Life." And I'm like, the one thing you can't live without is life. So, oh my gosh. So basically, what happened is revealed on Piper's hand that he wrote wife, W-I-F-E. And of course, they lost the thing. And then Piper actually confessed. And then he said, "How much wrong could I have done?" And then Thunderbolt, boom. Oh my gosh. Oh, that is fucking funny. I don't know any other Roddy Piper. Oh yeah, Roddy Piper, part of the Flock O Flamingos, Flock O Flamingos, Flock O Flamingos, Flock O Flamingos. Yeah, Piper pretty much lived in solitude in Portland, Oregon with his wife and 4 kids. One of them, I think, is a wrestler, and a few of them are in college education somehow. So anyway, God bless you, Roddy Piper. From one Canadian to another, thank you for your wrestling time. And this is the first major Canadian wrestler death since Test. I'm surprised Test died so young, but Test was Canadian, was from Toronto. So yeah. So thanks for everything, Piper, I guess. Well, thank God I have him for WWE 2K14. Well, I had to pick him up as a community creation, instead of, they could have just stupidly, I don't know why they didn't have WrestleMania 1 main event, like everybody in it. Well, the WrestleMania 1 thing on WWE 2K14 Years of WrestleMania was Andre the Giant against King Kong Bundy for the $15,000 Body Slam Challenge. That just pisses me off that they didn't put Piper in. Piper and Orndorff. I guess Orndorff didn't have a licensing law. It ticks me off. That's why, like WrestleMania 20, the famous moment was not, they didn't have the triple threat with Triple H, Benoit, and Shawn Michaels for obvious reasons because of Chris Benoit. So anyway, yeah, I better end this. I'm going to be babbling on and fucking on. Good night, y'all.